speaking with us.
What's happening, my
Like
friend?
many of the other witnesses, he is no longer willing to speak about his experience on 9/11. The fact remains that all of these witnesses can be subpoenaed for a grand jury or congressional hearing as a means to sort out who to indict as responsible for this event. So this is what we are calling for. It is now your responsibility to get involved, just as we had a responsibility to get this information into your hands.
We do.
This deception has been used as a pretext for the invasion and occupation of numerous sovereign nations, leaving thousands of U.S. troops and hundreds of thousands of civilians dead, and the lives of millions more destroyed. It has
People
been, and is still
who
being used
dumbed
to
it
justify
down.
torture,
You are the
secret
reason why the world
arrests,
fucked up
warrantless
now.
wiretapping, the Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, the Real ID Act, and a whole host of other authoritarian programs which undermine the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights.
And as soon as it's over with, y'all
The
gonna hear
9/11 lie will
exactly
continue to
how a
threaten
person
peace,
that
freedom,
can't
and justice in the
read
United States and
or
around
write
the world,
use
as long as the
technology
information
to
presented
help
in this video
y'all
and
get the
all
fucking
evidence
truth
exposed
in your
this
fucking
deception
life
remains
because
suppressed.
you've been lied to
Inaction
since
to
day
this information
motherfucking
by the
one.
current administration, as the
Your mama
fraudulent
had
war
to
on
live
terrorists
and give you her
perpetuated under
birthday
any other name, leaves them
because
not
that was your
only
consolation
responsible for the
prize.
continued bloodshed,
You
but
wasn't born to
implicated in the
her or
government and
you.
therefore complicit.
You was born to the United
Furthermore,
States of America
inaction by any
as
media,
fucking
political,
product.
or authority figures who have viewed this
You are on the
information
stock
amounts
market.
to a
Look
crime
on your
of
birth
obstruction of
certificate card.
justice.
The numbers on the
Just as
back of your birth
importantly,
certificate card in
inaction
the
by
red
any
with a
of us
letter
would
next to
bring
it
grave injustice upon our
is
children
you
and
on the stock
grandchildren,
market
who will suffer
being
the most from
traded
the war
as
that is being
goods.
created under the fear-mongering false banner
When
of
you
fighting
die,
terrorism.
somebody prosper from
We
you
are calling
dying.
on all
They
concerned
cash
places
out
to join us
off
in
of
a
you
nonviolent
dying
campaign
from
of
them
false
having you
accountability,
on the stock
while
market
demanding an immediate
with
and
that
indefinite
number on the back of your
moratorium to
social
all
security
military
number, your
action,
social security
defense
card.
spending, and
It's fucked
unconstitutional
up.
programs which emanate from the 9/11 deception.
From my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around, which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon and then caused the side to collapse. Now, even though if you look at the pictures of the Pentagon, you see that the floors have all collapsed, that didn't happen immediately. It wasn't until almost about 45 minutes later that the structure was weakened enough that all of the floors collapsed.
I'm laying up there and giving this to my little viewers. They done came out with how we can get involved in holding Bush and all the rest of these bitches accountable for September 11th. And those kids do what I see where people thumb down stuff. Now, only way I can see somebody thumbing this down, D, is if they the one that's a part of it. Right or wrong? When people thumb down stuff like what happened with September 11th. Yeah, I'm saying these people that's thumbing this shit down, either they stuck on stupid, don't want to be straight, or they the straight motherfuckers that got us stupid, and the ones that's doing that shit. Shit, motherfuckers. Boy. And I'm checking out. It's all new shit they putting out there, but D,
You're listening
we,
to
we,
the Corbett
we,
Report.
we already know D. All they can save our ass now is us putting out the loving vibration that will overveil that bullshit. But these motherfuckers done got deep. They deep in us, D. When I say they deep in us, every time I think about everybody that died since they changed the social security cards, put the social cards in, them bitches got paid. Woohoo! We ain't talking no little bit of money, nigga. We talking about money, numbers that you can't even fabricate. Woo! Not to make your head blow off, people, but you just gotta stay up on this shit. Let's go. More truth. Every time you sit there, you think about this, people. I want you to really think about this. We done false flag every war we done been in. It's been a false flag. It's been our government creating the shit. And y'all don't get it yet?
Terrorists. September the 11th.
Al Qaeda. 9/11 hijackers.
Jihadists. Terrorist organizations.
Terror attack.
Bin Laden. September 11th, terrorists.
The self-confessed mastermind.
Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al Qaeda.
Al Qaeda.
Terrible new terrorist organization.
September 11th.
Our enemy is a radical network of terrorists, and every government that supports them.
Our government are the terrorists. Our law enforcement officers are working with the government terrorists. How you officers not understand, understand that you working for the bad people?
About September 11th, 2001. Instead, let's ask ourselves one question. What was 9/11? A terrorist atrocity? An attack on America? The first salvo in a new war? A day that changed everything? The question may seem simple, but how we answer it is of vital importance. It determines how we proceed with our investigation of that day. And once you strip away the emotional rhetoric and the fear-inducing imagery, we're left with the simple truth. 9/11 was a crime. And as with any crime, there is one overriding imperative that detectives must follow to identify the perpetrators. Follow the money. This is an investigation of the 9/11 money trail.
Real talk, baby, on the channel. The truth is the truth, period. Fuck all the bullshit. And we are the descendants of the two first loving people, so we are the bullshit.
In 1998, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey agreed to privatize the World Trade Center, the complex of office towers in Lower Manhattan that they had owned and operated since their construction in 1973. In April 2001, an agreement was reached with a consortium of investors led by Silverstein Properties, and on July 24, 2001, Larry Silverstein, who already owned World Trade Center Building 7, signed a 99-year lease for the Twin Towers and Buildings 4 and 5. The lease was for $3.2 billion and was financed by a bridge loan from GMAC, the commercial mortgage arm of General Motors, as well as $111 million from Lloyd Goldman and Joseph Kerr, individual real estate investors. Silverstein Properties only put down $14 million of its own money. The deal was unusual in a variety of ways.
Y'all kill me, y'all ain't wanna hear me.
Only $1.5 billion of insurance coverage on the WTC complex, which earlier that year had been valued at $1.2 billion. Silverstein had insisted on doubling that amount, insuring the buildings for $3.55 billion. Silverstein's insurance broker struggled to put that much coverage in place and ultimately had to split it among 25 dealers. The negotiations were so involved that only temporary contracts were in place for the insurance at the time the lease was signed, and by September the contracts were still being finalized. Silverstein's group was also explicitly given the right to rebuild the structures if they were destroyed, and even to expand the amount of retail space on the site if rebuilding did take place. Within hours of the destruction of the Twin Towers on September 11th, Silverstein was on the phone to his lawyers, trying to determine if his insurance policies could construe the attacks as two separate insurable incidents rather than one. Silverstein spent years in the courts attempting to win $7.1 billion from his $3.55 billion insurance policy, and in 2007 walked away with $4.55 billion, the largest single insurance settlement ever. As soon as the deal was announced, Silverstein sued United and American Airlines for a further $3.5 billion for their negligence in the 9/11 attacks, a claim that was struck down by the courts but is still on appeal. Perhaps even more outrageously, in a secret deal in 2003, the Port Authority agreed to pay back 80% of their initial equity in the lease, but allowed the Silverstein Group to maintain control of the site. The deal gave Silverstein, Goldman, and Kerr $98 million of the $125 million they put down on the lease, and a further $140 million in insurance proceeds that were earmarked for the site's rebuilding. In the end, Silverstein profited from the 9/11 attacks to the tune of $4.5 billion and counting. But that's the 9/11 insurance heist you saw. There was a much deeper, more complex, and well-hidden heist that was taking place behind closed doors on September 11th, 2001, deep in the heart of the World Trade Center itself. Marsh & McLennan is a diversified risk, insurance, and professional services firm with over $13 billion in annual revenue and 57,000 employees. In September of 2001, 2,000 of those employees worked in Marsh's offices in the World Trade Center. Marsh occupied floors 93 to 100 of the North Tower, the exact area of the impact and explosion. In the year prior to 9/11, Marsh had contracted with Silverstream Software to create an electronic connection between Marsh and its clients for the purpose of creating paperless transactions. Silverstream had already built internet-based transactional and trading platforms for Merrill Lynch, Deutsche Bank, Bankers Trust, Alex Brown, Morgan Stanley, and other financial services firms that were later involved in 9/11, but this new project was unlike anything that had been attempted before. Richard Andrew Grove, the salesperson who handled the Marsh & McLennan project for Silverstream, explains.
In 2000, Silverstream was contracted by Marsh to provide a technological solution beyond what we had done for any of the above-named companies, insofar as it will be used to electronically connect Marsh to its major business partners via internet portals for the purpose of creating paperless transactions and expediting revenue and renewal cycles, and built from the ground up at the client's site. Silverstream provided a specific type of connectivity that was used to link AIG and Marsh & McLennan, the first two commercial companies on the planet to employ this specific type of transaction. And in fact, Marsh was presented with something called the Accord Award, ACORD, in the summer of 2001 for being the first commercial corporation to do so. And what you should take away from that is this. It means that no other companies were doing this type of transaction, so the question in your mind should be, what then were Marsh and AIG doing, and why did they need to leverage technologies that no other commercial entity on the face of the earth needed to conduct business? The contract, Silverstream then stationed approximately 30 to 40 developers at Marsh, and this team was led by 2 to 3 managers with whom I liaised to ensure delivery of the solution that was promised. The development team worked regularly into the night, if not all night, and sometimes worked 7 days a week in order to adhere to Marsh's indicated pre-September 11th deadline. Now,
But it was not long before severe irregularities in the billing of the account for this project led Richard Grove into the heart of a deeper mystery about the software and about the work that he was engaged in.
There's fiscal anomalies with respect to the Marsh.com project when I was in a meeting on the 98th floor in October of 2000 with a gentleman named Gary Lasko. Gary was Marsh's North American Chief Information Officer, and that particular afternoon a colleague and I helped him identify about $10 million in suspicious purchase orders after I had recognized that certain vendors were deceiving Marsh, and specifically appeared to be selling Marsh large quantities of hardware that were not necessary, as this was later confirmed by Gary. In the spring of 2000, I brought my concerns up to executives inside of Silverstream, and I was urged to keep quiet and mind my own business. I went to an executive inside of Marsh, and he advised me to do likewise. But then, I mentioned it to a few executives at Marsh who I could trust, like Gary Lasko, and Catherine Lee, Ken Rice, Richard Bruhart, and John Olzhofer. People who became likewise concerned that something untoward was going on. The concerned colleagues I just mentioned were murdered on September 11th. And the executives who expressed dismay at my concerns are alive and free today because of it. I feel it's no coincidence that the Marsh executive who urged me to drop my line of inquiry made sure that his personnel, who I just mentioned, were in the office for a global conference call before the staff meeting upon which I was to intrude. A conference call which I was informed this executive in question conducted, but attended from the safety of his Upper West Side apartment. Although
The global conference call with Marsh's IT staff on the morning of 9/11, a meeting that included the staff who were investigating the suspicious billing on the Silverstream deal, was confirmed in a 2006 interview with Marsh's then Chief Information Officer, Helen Clark. Richard Grove had been asked to attend the meeting, but was stuck in traffic on the way to the towers when the attack began. His friends at Marsh were not so lucky. 294 Marsh employees, including all of the participants in the conference call in the North Tower, died that morning. Meanwhile, the Marsh executive who had scheduled the meeting, the same one who had asked Grove to drop the issue of the billing anomalies, was safe in his apartment, attending the meeting via telephone. So what was the Marsh.com project really about? Why was it so important for it to be finished before September 11th? And what kind of transactions did it enable? More importantly, what information was lost when the data center on the 95th floor of the North Tower suffered a direct hit on 9/11 and the buildings were demolished? A partial answer comes from reports that emerged in late 2001 that a German firm, Convar, had been hired to reconstruct financial data from the hard disks recovered at Ground Zero. The firm talks about this work in its promotional videos.
September the 11th, 2001. The whole world is in shock following the attacks on the World Trade Center. Convar has some solutions to offer. Data stored on countless hard drives retrieved from the collapsed towers was believed to have been lost, but Convar specialists can render irreplaceable information readable again at Europe's only high-security data recovery center. Burnt, crushed, or dirty storage media are ready to relinquish their secrets by the time we finish them.
More details about the work comes from an IDG news service story posted to CNN.com in December 2001. Under the headline, "Computer disk drives from WTC could yield clues," the article notes, "An unexplained surge in transactions was recorded prior to the attacks, leading to speculation that someone might have profited from previous knowledge of the terrorist plot by moving sums of money. But because the facilities of many financial companies processing the transactions were housed in New York's World Trade Center, destroyed in the blasts, it has, until now, been impossible to verify that suspicion." A Reuters article from the same time, later posted to Convar's website, offers revealing glimpses into the investigation's early results. It quotes Peter Herschel, Convar's director at the time. The suspicion is that inside information about the attacks was used to send financial transaction commands and authorizations in the belief that amid all the chaos the criminals would have, at the very least, a good head start. Of course, it is also possible that there were perfectly
they kicked me off of that one.
unusual rise in business volume. It could turn out that Americans went on an absolute shopping binge on that Tuesday morning. But at this point, there are many transactions that cannot be accounted for. Not only the volume, but the size of the transactions was far higher than usual for a day like that. There is a suspicion that these were possibly planned to take advantage of the chaos. It also quotes Richard Wagner, one of the company's data retrieval experts. There is a suspicion that some people had advanced knowledge of the approximate time of the plane crashes in order to
Can't stop, won't stop. Alright, so I drop. Let me see where I'm at on here.